I know I am. Huh? You are technically already have joined my live.
We can hear
As you, oh, they can definitely hear you. They can't see you, but they can hear you. Okay. All right. So we are starting A Nation in Conflict. Now, this book is talking about two sets of people. Can anybody guess which two sets of people we're going to be talking about? And African Americans. Okay.
I'm gonna phrase it.
African Americans.
Okay. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. Okay. So obviously from this video, you can see that we're automatically right off the bat going to be talking about Native Americans and African Americans. Okay. And the book is called The Nation in Conflict because there is conflict going on with the Native Americans and with the African Americans. Who do you think they're conflicting with? The white people. Yes. You're very timid in saying that. Okay. Yes. So we're going to step back for just a second and remember the last little bit of last year. So we had the Civil War. Okay. We fought the war. We get the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. African Americans are now free and African American males can vote. Okay. Now, at the end of the year, we talked about Reconstruction. Does anybody remember about the massacres we were seeing in Louisiana for African Americans who were trying to vote? You guys remember us talking about those a little bit? Okay. We talked a little bit about how the KKK was kind of starting. Okay. There was a lot of racist groups. There were African Americans who began to get into office. We had like a whole big, huge list of people who got into office. And then as the violence started getting worse, they stopped. Okay. We are going to talk a little bit more about that and expand what that looks like when we get to chapter 2. But we haven't talked about Native Americans since very early on in 7th grade. All right. And now we're going to get into what life was like as the American settlers started to move into the West. All right. And it was not good. All right. This is one of those situations where when we are putting on our historical shoes and we are looking at the perspectives of people, sometimes we are putting ourselves into the perspective of some very ugly behavior. Okay? So there are going to be things that we're going to talk about that are not comfortable. Okay? But history is not comfortable. All right? The only way you can grow is to understand what was bad and what happened before. Okay? History repeats itself. It does all the time. But we have to try to make it stop repeating the bad stuff and only repeat the good stuff. Okay? So this video is supposed to represent a person in history named Chief Joseph, who we will talk about in chapter 1, and then W.E.B. Du Bois, or Du Bois, however you say it. And he is in chapter 2, really big into civil rights. But I want you guys to pay attention, especially to the last question that these guys ask you.
During my lifetime, During my lifetime, Americans moved west in search of land and opportunity. But for Native nations like mine, that meant broken treaties and a fight to preserve our way of life. While Native Americans struggled in the West, African Americans in the South fought a different battle. As rights won after recognition were stripped away by segregation and Jim Crow. This book is not simply about dates and events. It is about people, difficult choices, and the meaning of freedom. Ask yourself, did progress mean the same thing for every American?
Did progress mean the same thing for every American? Okay. And we'll be exploring, is that even progress for which side? All right. The big idea of this entire book is that the period after the Civil War continues to be a time of conflict. So we end the Civil War, but we are still fighting battles. As wars are waged for control of the West, and then African Americans are struggling for their rights. So America's not fighting itself. but we are fighting ourselves. Does that make sense? We aren't fighting North versus South. Now we're fighting what people would consider Americans, whites, against Native Americans, against African Americans. They're all Americans, right? Okay. So we're not fighting battles on battlefields in a war, but are we still fighting battles? Yes, for freedoms, but in different ways. Okay. All right. So your guys' framing question, which is on our first page in our journal, which is what drew so many Americans westward after the Civil War, and what was the effect of this settlement on Native American homelands and cultures? All right, for this framing question, take a look at everybody around you. Y'all see if you can figure it out together. Okay? Now, is it going to be right? Probably not. Maybe you guys come up with some ideas, but remember, this is the prediction. Trying to go back to what we know from last year. Think about why Americans are being drawn west after the war. And what is this going to affect Native Americans? Okay? And go. And you guys can talk. This is table activity. Okay? Table activity. Pretty much that first one, because I haven't taught it, right? So this is the main question I want you guys to be able to answer at the end. But I want to see if you guys can remember your history and see if we can make a good guess. You guys should be writing a guess. You should be writing a prediction. Go sit down. It's written down on the intro page. Yeah, it's also up here on the board. All right. So the 4 words that we are going to be looking at vocabulary-wise are manifest, assimilation, regiment, and amnesty. All right? Manifest, assimilation, regiment, and amnesty. All right? So I want you guys to think about those words and write down one of them that maybe you've heard before. That doesn't mean you know the definition of it. Okay? Just write down one that you recognize. These are the 4 vocab words that we are going to learn in this chapter. Manifest, assimilation, regiment, amnesty. All right. So if you open up your book to page 2, we are going to start on section 1 called The Allure of the West. Who can tell me what kind of section this is in your journal? Mini section. That is correct, which means the mini section is just a little piece of information that we're going to talk about. Okay. Write 3 facts or details that are important from this section. Okay, so we're going to read a couple of the little paragraphs right there, and we'll talk about it, because it's like when Mark comes in and says, wait a minute, are we learning Manifest Destiny again? He remembered it. Okay, we are going to touch on that. We're going to kind of come back a little bit to what we learned last year so that we can bring it forward. So this is The Allure of the West. All right. Last year, you guys are used to having questions on the board and you have to write the questions down and then answer them. That's not what these are. Okay? These are think, pair, share questions. Questions I'm going to ask you after we're done reading the section. And then you are going to try and look at somebody else at your table and answer it to their face. Okay? Here's what's great about our think, share, or think, pair, share questions is they actually also, the answers to these make pretty good notes. Okay? So if you are in a situation where it's like, okay, well, I need to write 3 facts down. Well, lucky you, how many think, pair, share questions do I have behind me? 3. So the answers to these might make pretty good notes. Okay? I got 3 questions.
Yeah, but it's 2 different
This
questions.
goes together. Okay, it all goes together. Okay. And then remember, you got to draw me a sketch. Okay? Some kind of visual representation of what we are talking about. So, anybody want to read the first section at all?
I'll read it.
Okay. Hold on. You guys can flip off. Go paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. Like, go back and forth. Like, flip. Not like that. Yeah, we're not. No, but we can. No? Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah.
During and after the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865, the promises of the American West portrayed a folklore used that captivated millions. Americans envisioned clear skies, open spaces, and a fresh start. These dreams motivated to move westward, and new government policies that made this move easier on the further current settlement west of the Mississippi River and Rocky Mountains. Many years later, in the 1890s, an American historian, Frederick Jackson Turner, would write an essay telling people how important this physical space known as the frontier was in development of American history. Turner described the frontier as a symbol of freedom, democracy, and new opportunity for Americans, many of whom would continue to move farther and farther westward in the pursuit of these things. Yet, while many envisioned the frontier as an opportunity with the Indians, Native Americans had lived on that same land for many thousands of years. These groups found their ancestral homeland and new ways of life, confronted by the massive arrival of new settlers. All right. So when we ended the American Revolution and we won and got all that land from Britain, okay, so if we take a look at our map over there, we're talking about from the ocean to the Mississippi River. All right. Who can go over there and point to where the Mississippi River is? Huh? Right next to Mississippi. Okay. Giselle, go show us where the Mississippi River is. Okay. You forgot.
I know.
Cortavion, go show them where it's at. There we go. Okay. All the way up the Mississippi River. Okay, hold on. You two stay over there for a second. Okay. So after the Revolutionary War, we pretty much own all the land of the Mississippi River. Okay. Which one of you two can show me what land we got in the Louisiana Purchase? Well, that's Mississippi. Okay, you two sit down. Who can show me who we got in the Louisiana Purchase? Go. Okay, good job. From Louisiana, right? Up Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, right? We got all of that from the French. Huh. Talk to me. What? From Louisiana. Okay. 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 So remember, after we got the Louisiana Purchase, there was two pretty famous explorers that started exploring what we just bought. What were their names? Lewis and Clark. Okay. Okay, so they started from Missouri. They went all the way up to Oregon.
She just said it wasn't Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson
No, I didn't.
bought.
I didn't say that.
No, he bought the Louisiana Purchase.
Jefferson a president?
Huh?
What's it called?
Number 3. He was the third.
Oh, yeah, so I was right.
Yeah. He bought it. Okay. So then most of the other land that we got prior to the Civil War, we got when we were fighting Mexico. Okay? So then we go into the Civil War. Hey, focus. Then we go into the Civil War. Now we're done fighting each other, and there's all of this land. Okay? So now we are wanting to go and get in. Who's living there? Native Americans. They're living there. They've lived there for forever. Okay? For most of the American history that we talk about before the Civil War. All right? So there are people that are living there. But in our mind, it's ours, right? We bought it. Okay? It was called the Frontier. We put Frederick Jackson Turner's name up here, the Frontier. Okay, he's going to start talking to us about what that actually means. Okay, so what false image do Americans have of the West? I don't want to know. I already know. Okay, look at somebody at your table and tell them.
What was the question?
What false image do Americans have of the West? What do you think?
It's in the second question.
Do you think you're gonna find danger there? What do you think they're doing? All right. So you guys just talked about an image in your head of what people thought they were going to see. Why is this image wrong? And why weren't the lands in the West actually unsettled frontier? Because we just said it's not unsettled, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because who lives there? Okay. So why is this idea, this dream, this imagination they had in their head, why is that false? Why is that not right? Why do you think that dream, this idea, okay? Why do you think that's actually false?
You gotta answer the second question.
Okay. So, why were the open spaces of the West so appealing to Americans? Don't tell me. Tell your partner. Okay. So, why do you think that, like, the West?
We got just run your hands on the board from under the second. The image is called the Native Americans. The image is called the Native Americans.
Very good. All right. Good. All right. Section 2. Western migration. Whoa. Hey, you guys do know that you can write things down as I'm talking, right?
But then I can't hear you, and then I get even more behind.
That is the work of a genius. But if you do it while we're writing it, you get the learning.
Yeah, but sometimes if you start to realize what you're looking for, and we're going to use this for an example on the next page, if you read about what you're looking for, as we're reading the book, now granted, when I'm talking to you, I'm like giving you more information, but as we're reading the book itself, sometimes you can start listening for things and go, oh, okay, I'm going to write that down, right? Because not every sentence we say is like, got to be a note, right? Or we just be copying the book the whole time. Okay. So if you guys turn the page in your journal real quick, you're going to get to your first core section.
Oh, yay.
Mom, spill the tea.
You can spill the tea later. Spill the tea later. Okay. So focus. All right. So our first core section is on this Western migration, and you get a graphic organizer.
Sideways.
Now, do you notice there's no note section?
Yeah.
That's because I'm asking you to write me a note about why gold discoveries encourage people to move. Why did cattle industry encourage people to move? Why did the Transcontinental Railroad encourage people to move? How did the Homestead Act encourage people to move? And how does hey, back table, y'all are going to fall behind if we're chatting too much together and not listening to me. I'm literally giving you instructions on this page. Okay. And you're going to write me something about why farming technology encouraged people to move. So as we are reading this section, we should be looking for, okay, I know I'm looking for her or the book to say something about gold. When we talk about it, you write it down. Okay? Yes.
I already know the answer. I just write it down now because you learned something last week. That's what I'm doing.
Listen, if you know some of it, we might add to it. But if you remember some of it from last year, it's probably about the same. Okay? I am okay with you using your current knowledge and maybe adding a little to it as we go. Okay. We're also getting to our first guided question. That guided question is, why did large numbers of Americans move west after the Civil War? Which I will put this up here. But hey, I'm not moving. I haven't even read it. I haven't even read anything. I'm just giving you instructions on the page. Breathe. If you are that's the problem though, is we're too worried about drama and tea than what's going on in class. Y'all can do that at any point in time. Okay, we're on section 2 and it says Western migration. Did you find the page? We're only on section 2. Don't stress yourself out. It's okay. All right. Okay, guys, your first guided question is here. All right. These are kind of like questions last year. They're not as hard. Okay. My question to you is, how do you start answering this guided question? Restating the question. Okay. So, how are you guys going to start answering this question? So, what is that?
People were drawn to the west. For the industry was most important in attracting people to the west.
Hold on. Stop. Read the question. No, not these. I'm talking about in your book, the guided question.
Oh, wait, the guided question?
That's what we're talking about.
So, how do you start it?
How do you start a guided question?
Large numbers of Americans moved west after the Civil War.
Exactly.
I was gonna say that.
Exactly. You restate the question. So a large number of Americans moved west after the Civil War because, and then you state your answer. Okay. So we're going to start reading Western migration. Remember, the questions that are behind me, these are just questions that can maybe help you answer some of the stuff on your pages, but it helps you give yourself a better idea. All right. So remember, we're looking for clues in our reading on the gold, cattle, railroad, Homestead Act, farming technologies. 5 things. Yes, we are. All right. So after the Civil War, many people moved westward in search of riches. However, this was not the first time that large groups had trekked westward. The discovery of gold in California in the 1840s had already led the first rush of settlers into that area. And then 10 years later, gold was discovered in Colorado, igniting another rush of settlers. What year was gold found in California?
1840.
It was in the 1840s, but what year? There is a clue. Why'd you say that like SpongeBob in 25? Okay. There is a clue in an NFL football team's name. 49ers. Okay? The San Francisco 49ers. Okay? You have a red and gold. So red like the color of the soil. Gold the color of gold. Okay? So that is a clue to always remember that 1849, okay, is when we discovered gold in California. So then 10 years later, we've got now gold in Colorado. So more people start to go. However, gold is not found by a lot of people. All right. The gold rush in 1849, 1850s, 1860s is kind of equivalent to how some of your fellow students, when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, and they say, I want to be a TikTok influencer. Okay. I'm going to be famous on YouTube. I'm going to have a famous YouTube channel. Like, share, comment. Okay. Not really, not anymore. Like nobody watches it. I post a video, 200 people watch it, or like you guys do. It's like it's wild. Okay. Huh? At Mrs. Bethel's history class is the handle you need to know. Okay. All right. So my point is that right now, if somebody were to come to you and go, I hope that I grow up and I'm going to be a famous influencer. Okay. That's exactly how some people looked at them when they said, I'm going to go west and go dig for gold. Huh? Okay. That is going to be very, very hard to get wealthy at. Okay. So on top of gold, the cattle industry brings a lot of people west. By 1860, there was 5 million cattle in a very small corner of Texas. That's between the Rio Grande River and San Antonio. But that changes as railroads start to be built. Okay? Cattle ranchers can move their cattle closer to the railroads, which means that the cattle can get on the railroad and the cattle can go east. And if it goes east, that's where all the people live. That's where the slaughterhouses are. Okay. Do you guys think it's faster to drive cattle from Texas to a slaughterhouse in Chicago on horseback? Or is it faster to put your cattle onto a train car and move them to Chicago?
Right.
On the train, right? They get there faster. They get slaughtered faster. And now, well, don't look at me like that. Come on. Have you eaten a hamburger lately? Okay. Guess what? That cow went on a train and it went to Chicago and it got slaughtered. It got ground up so you can enjoy it. Okay. All right. Well, all right. So now people who may have thought that farming and ranching and being cattle drivers was hard because of all of the cattle drives they had to make, now owning cattle and getting land maybe is not so difficult if you can put your cattle on a train. Okay, much easier to get more money and faster to get it to a slaughterhouse. Okay, now railroads continued to grow. Does anybody remember where the Transcontinental Railroad started and ended in the country?
If we went back to the last show.
Was it called?
I know, Yep,
Sacramento?
to the baseball championships for college are held there.
I have.
Omaha.
Oh.
Omaha. And they met in the middle in Salt Lake City. Okay? So the Transcontinental Railroad, okay, that Congress had made, had taken action. Tracks were laid from Sacramento to Omaha. Okay? The Transcontinental Railroad plays a very...
He's spitting bars.
I know he is. Okay. The Transcontinental Railroad is really important because it's not just moving cattle, it's moving people, it's moving vegetables, it's moving fruit. All right. Okay. I told y'all he might just bust out in song there for a second. Okay. Now all of this movement of people, this sounds great, right? We're going to get more food. We've got more crops that are coming. Okay. We've got more travel. There's more wealth that's coming. So in that perspective of progress, that sounds really good. America is growing. But who are we taking from?
The Native Americans.
Native Americans, okay, who continue to be displaced on their land. Much of the railroad is stretching across the Great Plains. Okay, so this is going from the Rio Grande River. Guys, the Rio Grande River is what makes the border between Texas and Mexico. So the Great Plains goes from the bottom of Texas all the way up to Canada, which covers about 3,000 miles. And then it goes from, I just lost my spot. The Appalachian Mountains to the Rocky Mountains. Okay. Can anybody go point out those two mountain ranges on the map? Appalachian and the Rocky Mountains.
Well,
I know it's point out the Appleton, but
Appalachian.
Go, show us the Rocky Mountains.
I think
Move.
I
know where the Rocky are.
Why are we looking for Rhode Island? Rhode Island, we aren't looking for. We are looking for the. Do you guys see why I quizzed you on the states and the capitals yesterday? Okay, I should have asked you where the mountain ranges and the oceans are too. Okay, not Appleton. Go sit down. You guys are wild. Okay. All right, come over here. Take a look. All right. Yeah. I mean, well, go have a seat. Okay. All right. So our Appalachian Mountains, they're going to start up here into New York and New Hampshire, Vermont, and they're going to come all the way down here to the top part of Alabama and Georgia. Okay. Appalachian.
Oh. Why can I stretch that long?
Because why? God made it that way. I don't know.
Why is this big rock?
Okay. Then here, okay, we have the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains are all the way pretty much throughout here. There's a different mountain range in California, but you can see it right here. So right from where this arm is to this arm in our country, this is all the plains. Lots of farming and agriculture in here. Anybody ever flown over this area in a plane?
Yeah.
Okay. All you see is just green squares. Okay? So that is farming land.
That's weird.
It's all different
You
colors.
see the
and-
square and then you see the trees on the line.
Right. It's beautiful though. It's absolutely beautiful. Okay. So following the American Civil War, American settlers and European immigrants turned their attention towards the plains. They're not trying to mine anything, right? Because mining is happening in the mountains. Okay. They're just trying to claim a piece of land to grow farms. Okay. And that's where the U.S. government comes in. Okay. They create the Homestead Act. Did we talk about the Homestead Act last year?
Yes, we
I think we did. Does anybody remember what the Homestead Act? Tell us about it.
They promised anyone who worked on the railroads, they'd get land.
168.
Close. Okay, close. Yes. So what the government did was they created the Homestead Act where they were going to give out 160 acres and you had to farm it for 5 years and it became yours. Now the railroad companies did sell their land. Okay, so look, I drew you guys a picture.
Yay.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here is our railroad. Now, how wide do you think a railroad is?
Like, not that way. Like the size of that table.
Like, let's say 8 feet at the max. Okay. Some of the rocks on the side were maybe 12 feet. Okay. All right. The United States government gave train companies land to build the railroad. You guys remember this? But they gave the train companies land not only to build the railroad, but 10 miles to the left and 10 miles to the right. Is a train track 10 miles wide?
No.
So what did the railroad companies do? They started selling their pieces of land. Okay, there's a picture on page 5, and it shows a flyer. This was the Burlington and Missouri River Railroad Company that was selling their product. Now, it says on there, they're going to give 10 years of credit. Do you guys know what that means?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Credit. I know what it is, but I don't know what they're saying.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say Sarah.
Okay, so basically what that means is they're looking at somebody who goes, hey, do you want to buy this land? And you're like, yeah. And they go, cool. I'm going to give you 10 years to pay it off. So it's like a loan. Okay. On the flyer, it says only the interest payment down, payments on the principal begin the 4th year. So they collect the interest right off the bat. Then they make you start paying for the land. Okay. So the bank always makes their money. They're always going to make interest, no matter what. All right. But something's about to happen that is going to make it a little bit harder. Okay. That one is already posted for first hour. So you can watch 7th grade. It's in the folder. Okay. We got a viewer. What's up? Okay. So when all of this starts to happen, so the Plains region is having like the best weather ever. Okay. What happens for farms if it rains a lot?
It gets really wet.
Okay. Well, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It gets too much water.
No. Okay. Hold on a second. What happens if you get the perfect amount of rain?
They cross.
The crops grow. Okay. So what's happening is all of a sudden the Plains are having like the best weather ever. Okay. Which is actually really weird. It's better weather than it's ever seen before. So people are looking at the land and they're like, oh, I gotta have some of that. I gotta buy that. Okay. But then about 4 years later, after they get the land and they move out there, a drought happens. What is a drought?
We're all water in the area and like
Water
goes away.
disappears.
That's a source of water.
No rain. Okay. We get no rain. All right. What can happen in a drought?
Crops
The
can
ground-
die.
the ground cracks.
Crops can die. Huh? What? Fires. Okay. Yeah, it's just terrible, right? No food, no water. Okay. People can get sick. Okay. We have a lot of wildfires here. So that was called, when that happened, it was called the Dust Bowl. Because even the wind would blow. Remember, we talked about the Dust Bowl a little bit last year. So even the wind would blow, and all of a sudden you'd have terrible dust storms that would kick up. And it would look like a wall of just dark water was coming at you, but it was actually dust. All right? Huh? Yes, very good. It happens in Oklahoma. Okay, so regardless of rainfall, technology, or affordable land, life on the plains was not easy. and the soil posed challenges. Yet between 1870 and 1890, farmers actually claimed more land on the Great Plains than the combined area of England and France. Okay, so real quick, one of the last boxes is called New Farming Technology. Now, we did talk about this last year, okay, new farming technology. We were getting trains. So what do you think if we have trains that we have on the farm? What were they making? Huh? Tractors. Okay, so I made you guys a tractor. Fourth hour informed me that this looked like a lawnmower or a wheelchair.
Yes.
Okay,
I see it. It kinda looks like a big
my
wheel.
drawing skills are not exactly up to par this year. We're gonna get them there.
Oh, that-
Okay,
oh, I see, one
This
little-
year.
but
Well, I mean, look, your train was better than it was last year.
that is true. The train is much better
Oh, I
looking
thought
than
it
it was
Train
last year.
last year was
I thought it was a
something,
truck. That looks like a
but
truck.
your tractor is definitely something too. It's a little.
Wait, is that a person on it or? is
It's
it-
a chair.
It looks like a guy with really long legs.
No, that's the steering wheel.
You sound very sad.
You know what? I'm never drawing another picture for you again. Okay, you guys can figure it out visually. I'm not doing it anymore.
No.
Okay. So okay. So in that last part, new farming technology. So people who might be worried about how am I going to farm, okay, they might be more attracted to go get this land. Why? Because there's new technology that is going to help them farm something better. So, okay, think, pair, share. Guys, Western migration. Besides mining, what industry was most important in attracting people to the West in the 1860s? So if it's not mining or farming, which other one?
Farming, that's it. Or farming.
So right here, besides mining, what industry was most important in attracting people to the West in 1860? What people would work in?
Those buttons right there? Yes, those. What industry was the most important? Oh,
Let's see. Why do you think they wanted to settle in the Great Plains?
There was a lot of land. Or agriculture. Anyways. Hey, is there any kind of
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, remember the weather was very good, so it made it seem like it was more attractive, right? Right? They didn't realize that something bad. All right. What advances made farming on the Great Plains easier? What kind of technology are we seeing?
Tractors.
Okay, well, you know, don't tell me, okay?
Oh, why did you say that?
Okay, how did the Western expansion that occurred before the Civil War differ from that which occurred after the war? Now, this one's tough. Okay, this one's tough. This is going to make you think. Okay, last year we talked about movement and people going out to the West. All right, now they're going out for a different reason. How are they differing from each other? Okay, don't tell me. Talk to your group about it. Yeah, are you about to answer this question? What's up? Okay, on this page. Okay. Okay. What are you confused about? Okay. So the question says, how did it encourage settlement? Okay, which means that's what I'm talking about. Right. Okay. So how did it encourage settlement, right? So gold. The discovery of gold. How did that make people want to move west? So, right, you're way over there and I'm over here, right? And if I say, guess what? I found gold over here.
Oh, yeah.
What would that do to you to make you move out here? Why would you want to move out here for gold? Okay, there you go. That's your answer. Okay? Because why? Because the opportunity to have gold will make you, okay? So ask the same thing. If you're over there and I'm over here and I'm like, oh, I've got a cattle farm, what would that do for people? Why would that be attractive for them to move over here? Does that make a little bit more sense? Like if you put it in that perspective? Okay.
I don't know how. It just.
Okay. So let's look at this guiding question. Why did a large number of Americans move west after the Civil War? Okay, so obviously you want to start it. Large number of Americans moved west after the Civil War because, okay, now, where do you think you can find your becauses?
In the book.
And?
That's all I got. Right there.
Elle, I said it. Elle, right.
On her page.
The becauses are all right here. Okay? Yes.
Yeah, I saw all of it.
Huh? In a second. Okay. So remember, this is a core section. So this is the stuff that you're going to want to remember. Okay? You have a couple core sections coming up. Now, I know we haven't talked about Native Americans yet. We will. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about that idea of manifest destiny. Then we're going to talk about how manifest destiny starts really ruining Native Americans. Okay? Do you guys have any questions about what we just talked about today?
Zero.
No? Huh?
Did you say what did we talk about? She's been sleeping.
Okay.
No, I have not.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes to go over some of your stuff in your book, talk with each other, and we will keep going tomorrow.